Hello, my name is Vigil. The date is 6/7/2022. The time is 23:29. I'm sitting outside my apartment, building type thing, and just having a cigarette. I'm a libertarian by character, I guess, character traits. I believe in minimal government, minimal laws, operating as a society mostly on common sense, which I think can be taught. I don't think people are stupid. I don't like people a lot of the times, but I love them, I guess. I do a lot to help them. But I was thinking, like, my Twitter accounts are crazy. Like, they're just out there, really fucking far out there. They're crazy. And they're supposed to be. I'm playing games with other people, trying to dive into my shadow, as Carl Jung talks about, like the darkest part of your psyche. And mine's super dark because of everything that happened to me. I don't condone doing evil, but it's like therapeutic to talk about it. And there's no mechanism for me to talk about it, except in these war games and board games and stuff where we role play and LARP some of the darker realities. And started thinking about that person who said you're gonna get in trouble tomorrow. I started thinking what all could I get in trouble for it? And I thought maybe these videos, and that scares me, because if I can't talk about anything in our society, literally just be able to talk about anything, not condone it, not advocate for violence, not do whatever, but just play scenarios and games and stuff like that, we're on a very downwards, that's a slope into tyranny. And I don't know, it scares me. So I thought I would talk today about my libertarian values. I personally think every man is responsible for his own actions. You can say whatever you want, and other people still have to take responsibility for their own actions. If someone talks murderous speech and then other people go and do that murdering, it's still the responsibility of the people who did the murder. Unless it's a direct order in an organization that has structure, like DOTMAP or whatever it's called, doctrine, organization, training, material, funds, people, without a large framework structure already built, sociological structure like an organization, and a direct order, and no mechanism built into the doctrine that says to disobey unethical orders, then the person, I think, is responsible. But I guess I just feel like we shouldn't censor speech, we shouldn't censor ideologies, we should rationally talk about them. One of the problems, though, is that our modern society is victim to this lack of reasoning. We hyperlink to arguments. You get your argument from the TV, you're either red or blue, and your channel, like CNN blue or Fox News red, tells you they're both talking about the same thing simultaneously, the same events and shit, and they both have narratives that they craft for the entire nation. And then they interview people on the street, and the people say what the interviewers told them to say through the television mass media syndication system that's monolithic. And we don't really rationalize the arguments anymore. When you say well, that's socialism, or that's capitalism, or whatever, any argument, pro-gun, pro-choice, pro-life, pro-whatever, they're hyperlink, they're symbolic words that link to an argument that we're not actually rationalizing and thinking out every time we talk. We simply use a hyperlink to the argument, and we don't process the whole argument. So what this means is that we're arguing with symbols that have deep logic structures that we ourselves don't really rationalize and think about with our own thinking, with our own thoughts. So you can say, you essentially don't have to think anymore. The TV does it for you. You have an opinion, a belief system, and you have an ideology, a social group, an in-group and an out-group, these sociological structures that are pre-rendered for us, arguments that give us morality, virtuous signaling, like, oh, I'm pro-choice because I think women's rights are important, but you're anti-gun because you were scared of them shooting up a school, which anti-handgun is actually anti-women's rights. And like, we killed 13 kids in the retreat from Afghanistan with a Hellfire missile. No one's calling for that to stop. So you're pro-choice because you believe in women's rights, but you're anti-gun because you want safety in schools, which leaves women open to being attacked by bigger, like, male assailants, while at the same time saying nothing about the drone strikes that killed 13 kids when we were fleeing Afghanistan. We left 18 million kids in ISIS hands. Like, if you really rationalize your belief system, it's stupid. And like, it's not just you though, it's our entire society that's doing this. And like, we've stereotyped and pigeonholed our belief systems into these two bipolar sides. And it's just unhealthy for society in general. And like, you can be pro-choice, you can be pro-gun, you can be anti-war or whatever, but you have to start to realize that you're not actually thinking through your belief systems. What you're doing is you're finding an in-group that accepts you by echoing their hyperlink arguments without really rationalizing your whole ideological belief system. And it makes sense. I mean, like, stress is a needed component for the development of higher intelligence. Like, it's necessity that gives us intelligence. And in our nation, we have instant fast food, instant free porn, like cigarettes, alcohol, like for cheap. We have welfare. We have all these mechanisms that make life very comfortable and sedated in a neo-hedonistic framework. Like, not classical hedonism of like social interaction and a pot of cheese, but like rock and roll hedonism, which is like, we all worship hell, but we're all doing heroin to escape pain. I guess the issue I have is that we hyperlink to arguments. We cherry pick data. We don't rationalize our entire belief system, and like, it shows, it's evident. Like, and we get on these social waves, zeitgeist, however you say the German word, of social phenomenons, like the school shooting, Ukraine, what else? Like, we as a community, because of our social media, our mass syndicated news systems, and our collective ADHD, and our collective shadow, which we've repressed to make us all believe we are these like saints and in groups, and like the demons are the Republicans if you're a Democrat, or the Democrats if you're a Republican, demon rats and shit. And like, if you, like, just to dismantle, like, I'm sure there is someone who's watching who if this were ever to blow up, like, there is someone out there who is pro-choice, anti-gun, and these two things now conflict with each other, and like supportive of our troops or whatever. Or like, if you're pro-choice because you believe in women's rights, but you're anti-gun because you believe you don't want kids getting shot with handguns, those two conflict. Like, women's rights are enshrined by them owning handguns. Like, that is, the handgun is the perfect weapon for women to enforce and reinforce their place in society, protecting themselves from the larger assailants that are male. And it's a part of their right to self-defense from larger assailants. And like, but then you argue, well, kids will use them to shoot up schools. It's an epidemic in our society. We killed 13 kids when we were fleeing Afghanistan, like, with a Hellfire missile. There's still Predator drones flying around the world shooting people up with Hellfire missiles. No one's freaking out about it, yet that was 13 kids in a single moment are gone because of our retreat from Afghanistan being failed. And we left 18 million kids behind. And like, there's kids all over the world starving to death. And like, there's, like, if you're gonna be pro children's safety, you gotta take into account the rest of the reality that's going on. But we don't, because we hyperlink to arguments, and these hyperlinks begin to degrade, and like, I don't know, man. I'm looking for my wolf. It's an invisible creature that roams around at night that you can see shimmers of. Alright, I'm just kidding with you. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm just fearful that I'll be targeted by the government because I am a huge free speech advocate. Free speech cost me a lot of shit in my life, but I still think it should be allowed to like exist completely unrestricted. I don't think people are responsible for anyone's actions but their own unless they're in an organization with three components: structure, doctrine that doesn't. If they have doctrine that doesn't say to disobey legal orders, they're the head of an organization and it's a direct order, then they're liable. Like, otherwise, you are responsible for your own choices. You can't just say I was following orders or I was following his commands or whatever. I don't know. Something to think about. Yeah, I guess that's it for now. Later.